Secretary Nuland, we're here in a circumstance that neither you nor I wanted to be here. Sadly, what you predicted to this committee, what I predicted to this committee, and indeed what members on both sides of the aisles knew might happen, appears to be happening. We have some 100,000 Russian troops massed on the border of Ukraine. And according to declassified documents from the Biden administration, the odds are significant that we will see a military invasion of Ukraine by Russia in the next 90 days. This was entirely preventable. This disaster is the direct consequence of political decisions made by Joe Biden. One decision in particular caused this disaster, and it was the decision to throw away our national security victory on Nord Stream 2 and instead to hand Vladimir Putin a multi-billion-dollar generational gift. Now, just a moment ago with Senator Markey, you were asked what are the Democratic talking points, which are, number one, the vast majority of the pipeline was completed under Donald Trump. Well, yes, that happens to be true. It was completed before the sanctions legislation passed. I authored the sanctions legislation along with Senator Shaheen on this committee. Sanctions legislation passed in December of 2019. December of 2019, over 90% of the pipeline was completed. And what happened? Putin stopped building the pipeline the day President Trump signed that bill into law. Not the next day, not the next week, that day. The sanctions worked exactly as designed. And for over a year, nothing happened. The pipeline was a hunk of metal at the bottom of the ocean. So an over 90% complete pipeline is a 0% complete pipeline until you connect it and turn it on. When did Putin begin constructing the pipeline? Joe Biden was sworn in as president on January 20th, 2021. 4 days later, January 24th, 2021, is when Putin began building the pipeline again. So we had succeeded with a bipartisan victory stopping this pipeline until Joe Biden and Kamala Harris came into office and gave away our leverage and surrendered. Now, why does that matter? Vladimir Putin didn't wake up yesterday and decide he wanted to invade Ukraine. He has wanted to do that for a long time, and indeed he has. In 2014, he invaded Ukraine, he invaded Crimea, but he stopped. He didn't go all the way to Kiev, and one of the major reasons why is because of the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. That he could not risk damaging or destroying the ability to get Russian gas to Europe. Nord Stream 2 was launched shortly after that initial Crimea invasion. Because if Putin can get an alternative means of getting gas to Europe, he can send the tanks into Kiev without fear of damaging his ability to get to market. This summer, when Joe Biden gave away a massive bipartisan foreign policy victory, our allies, Ukraine and Poland, put out a formal statement on July 21st saying the Biden administration's surrender to Putin, quote, has created political, military, and energy threat for Ukraine and Central Europe. They were right. We are seeing this threat today. Now, here's the good news. The administration in which you serve, and I will note, you argued to do the right thing. You were overruled by your political superiors in the White House. But the Biden administration can still do the right thing. Secretary Nuland, is it true or false that if President Biden decided to, he could sanction Nord Stream 2 AG today?
The waiver is currently in place. It could be lifted, yes.
Okay, so he could sanction then today. Let me ask you a question. If the Biden administration imposed sanctions on Nord Stream 2 AG, if it halted the certification of the pipeline so that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline did not go online, would that make invasion of Ukraine more likely or less likely?
Senator, it's the German government that has paused the certification of the pipeline itself right now. That certification is not going forward. You know that we believe this pipeline is a bad deal for Europe and a bad pipeline, but I do not believe that anything we would have done with regard to Nord Stream 2 would have changed Putin's calculus with regard to the buildup we have around Ukraine today. I believe he has an ambition to have
So let me ask
control
it
of
another
Ukraine.
way. If Nord Stream 2 goes online and is operational, does that make an invasion of Ukraine more likely or less likely?
Nord Stream 2 is not currently on track to become operational.
If it does, I'm asking a
will be.
hypothetical.
It
If
will be.
Nord Stream 2 goes online, I don't think it's coincidental that the predicted date for an invasion is almost exactly when certification is predicted to be over. I don't think that's accidental. So my question is this: if Nord Stream 2 goes online, does that make invasion of Ukraine more likely or less likely?
I believe that President Putin will make his decisions with regard to Ukraine irregardless of what happens to Nord Stream 2. I believe he has an aspiration to have control of Ukraine.
Well, but he didn't do that until the Biden administration waived sanctions. From 2014 until today, he hasn't done that, and it was exactly what Ukraine and Poland warned us, that when this president surrendered to Putin, it would create a security crisis in Ukraine. That's what it's done.